Yesterday, the New York Jets hit a new level of ineptitude. Joe, I mean, this franchise sucks. How are you?
Oh, they're a disaster. I mean, there's no other way to say it. I mean, yesterday was, probably in a season of one brutal loss after another, I thought yesterday might have been the worst of all of them. I really did.
What made it so bad, Joe?
Well,
was it the fact that they weren't winning? They sucked at the beginning of the game.
Yeah, well, they didn't get a first down for what, 6 straight 3-and-outs before they finally got a first down?
5 of them. But then they got themselves in winning position. Right?
Here's where the game was lost, okay, as far as I'm concerned. They're up 24-22, and if you saw the Bill-Chief game, Buffalo was in exactly the same position the Jets were in yesterday. A 4th and 2, right around the 20-yard line. Same thing, about the same time in the game and all of that. 24-22, 4th and 2. I'm with my buddy Tommy Keenan watching the game. We are screaming, you have to go for it. You're 3-7. Don't play not to lose and kick the field goal. Go for it. Because even if you don't get it on 4th and 2, you're going to lose the game anyway. I had no confidence in the defense. Remember, the defense, after they took an 8-point lead, and they should have went for 2 there as well, after they took an 8-point lead, went right down the field in like 5 plays for a touchdown. I mean, so why would I be confident that they were going to stop them this time? I knew they were dead. When he didn't go for it at 4th, and Rodgers wanted to go for it, and he somewhat, it seemed to me, threw Ulbrich under the bus a little bit after the game. And he wanted to go for 2 as well when they went up, by 7, 23-16. So to me, that's where the game was lost. I knew the defense was going to give it up. I knew they were.
You nailed it, because if they hadn't allowed the Bills to march down the field on the prior drive, maybe Colts. I would have been the Colts. What am I saying? Because I'm thinking of that.
Well, Buffalo did the same thing. They went for it, and Josh Allen ran 20 yards for a touchdown.
And you're so right. It was the same. It was 4th and 2 from the 25-yard line. It was basically the same situation.
Yep.
If the Jet defense had not allowed Anthony Richardson and the Colts to march down the field on the prior drive, I probably would have been more okay with, kick the field goal, keep him out of the end zone and win it. But that showed me I can't trust this defense to make a stop. Your only chance to win the game is to get a first down, bleed the clock, or score a touchdown.
That's it. And that was it, and I knew they were going to lose. Look, I mean, there's so many things about this game that made you crazy. I mean, how about the fact, just think about this. The Jets had 2 penalties yesterday. Yeah. There was no penalties in this game in the first half on either team. They didn't get a penalty till the 4th quarter. Fastenau had that holding penalty, but I think they overcame it anyway and scored.
Yep.
They didn't turn it over. They have 2 penalties in the game that did not hurt them at all, yet they still find a way to lose. Breece Hall has a phenomenal game, catching the ball, running, couple touchdowns, all of that, and they still find a freaking way to lose this game.
Right. There's no penalties, Joe, and no turnovers either.
Right.
Which is what's killed them recently. Now, the challenge for the Jets is, what do you want to even see going forward? You know what I mean? That's the hard question for the Jet fan.
Well, I mean, they still got 6 games.
I know.
I want to win some games here. I mean, I do. I mean, I'm tired of losing. It's the same old. I mean, and this right now, this season is on its way to be as bad, considering the expectations, considering Rodgers. As bad a season as we've ever had. Right there with the Richie Kotite 2 years that he was here, and we won 4 games in 2 years. I mean, that's how bad this season is shaping up to be. They were a better team last year. Let's be honest about it.
Right. They were every which way. Like, I know the quarterback has played better than the quarterback play of a year ago, but the results are kind of the same. They don't score enough points. Nope. They don't take shots down the field ever. I mean, Aaron Rodgers, I'm convinced, doesn't want to take shots down the field because he doesn't want to ruin his stats. He doesn't want to throw interceptions.
Is that what you think?
What other reason do you have then?
I don't know. I mean, but he's getting rid of the ball very it seems like just about every pass he throws is this quick pass.
Right.
Yeah, I don't know if I think that.
Yeah, I think the challenge.
I find that hard to believe.
How about the final drive of the game? And I understand there's 46 seconds left, no timeouts. He takes the sack with no timeouts left, and the clock's running down. Throw the ball up. He got nothing to lose at that point.
That's a specific play. He needs it to develop, and he just doesn't have time. I think you're right, Joe. He is getting rid of the ball fast. But the thing that going into this game, we have to do these, storylines that we may talk about. And one of the storylines that we wanted to bring up was about his lack of connection with Devontae Adams. I think his catch percentage was like 51% or something.
Well, he
like
had a decent game, Devontae.
No, but he did this game. But, but prior to this game, it's almost like Aaron's ready to throw the ball, and his receivers aren't.
Yes.
You know what I mean? And so the timing, for whatever, it's not right. And it should have been, especially given the familiarity that they have with one another. That's, to me, is the biggest issue with Aaron Rodgers and his receiving core. It's why Breece Hall has 300, or now he has almost 400 yards receiving, because he ends up just being the safety net. Like, all right, you're not ready. I'm just going to chuck it down to Breece Hall.
You know, a couple things. First of all, and you said this during the broadcast, I think it was you. Breece Hall said he is never the primary receiver on a play. I believe you guys. It was one of you guys.
Yeah, I think Jason said that.
I mean, I couldn't believe it.
Yeah,
he's never the. I mean, can we throw the guy a screen pass every now and then?
Well, other than the screens, he's talking about. Because he has, I got to look at the exact number.
He's got Marshall Faulk ability as a receiver.
No doubt. And I got to look at the number of receiving yards that he has. He's got 400 receiving yards, which I think is first or second in the league for running backs. Alvin Kamara is the only one.
Right.
And, I mean, 47 catches, I'd probably say 38 of them are just checkdowns.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right. Well, a touchdown was a check down yesterday.
Exactly right.
Yeah.
And so, nothing is ever on schedule with this offense. That's why it's frustrating to watch. Nothing, it seems, Aaron Rodgers gets back to his last, drop spot, and the ball's coming out, receivers on time, ball's on time, good play. You're not seeing that. It feels all improvised.
Well, you know what else, too, watching the game yesterday, and this is very frustrating to me as well. The Colts receivers are open all over the place. I mean, you're watching these guys come wide open, for Richardson to throw the ball to, and it just seems like our guys are never open.
Never.
You know it, right?
Yeah.
Am I right?
And you saw it immediately on that opening drive where the Colts kicked that field goal. They had a third down right out of the gate. Yeah. So the Jet defense had a chance 3 and out, and Josh Downs was so wide open. There was no one near him. We saw it with Alec Pierce late in the game, too.
Yeah, well, that was...
There was so many examples where Colt receivers were just completely wide open, and you're right, you never see that with the Jets right now.
Never. I mean, these guys always seem like they're covered, and like Tiki pointed out, how many times have I seen, especially with Adams, Rodgers is throwing the ball this way, and Adams is going the other way. I mean, we see this seemingly constantly. But, I don't know what to think. I mean, this is still better quarterback play than I've seen probably since the big year that Fitzpatrick had 9 years ago.
So you're right, but here's the problem. I can't deny that. But I think that says more about how god-awful the quarterback play of our franchise has been. Because if you look at his numbers, he is, and really just evaluate him, he's been middle of the pack, if not worse, compared to every other quarterback in this league. Yeah. So he has that's not good enough. It's better than Zach Wilson. Great. I mean, okay. Yeah. But it's just not good enough.
I look at this season. The kicking game has killed us, has cost us probably 3 games.
Yep.
Certainly 2. The defense has cost us 2 games, yesterday's game and the Patriot game, the second one, obviously. So that's, 4 games, let's just say 4 games right there that I can't pin on the quarterback. I mean, I'm sorry. I mean, I just can't. You know what?
But how many times, and you could even include yesterday's game, I know it's only 46 seconds, is the ball in his hands with a chance for him to erase all of those mistakes and win anyway?
Yeah, I understand that. I get it. But... look, he was in a tough spot. They had no timeouts. The timeout, this is the other thing, the timeout that Olbrich called before the field goal. If he called timeout there and went for it, okay. If you call timeout there to come up with a play that we're going to go for it now and try to win this game right here, I'm good with the timeout.
Yeah, and why not? You know what I mean?
Right.
What do you have to lose? You're 3-7.
That's what I mean. Of course. But when you call timeout because you want to preserve 5 yards for the kicker who just made a 58-yarder, okay, whatever it was, I mean, what are you doing? Look, Olbrich is not a head coach. We know that. He's way over. What Woody should have done, well, he shouldn't have fired Sal. I mean, we look at hindsight, that was a major mistake. But what he should have done is something similar to what they've done in New Orleans. Don't make your defensive coordinator the head coach. Make a lower-level assistant the head coach. And don't mess with your defense, right? I mean, seriously.
Yes.
Right?
That would have been the better option. The only thing I'm also wondering about with Robert Saleh, to credit him, as much as we killed him, and I definitely killed him, is maybe he was that involved in the defense. Maybe even if they did do that, where they promoted Boyer or Nate or whomever, maybe the defense would have been affected anyway because Saleh was that valuable and we just didn't realize it.
Yeah, I wonder. I'm trying to think of because most teams do exactly what you just said, Joe. It's a lower level assistant. Think about the Raiders. It was Rich Bisaccia, who was not
special teams.
Not lower level, but you know what I mean. He's
special
teams. And then think about last year with Antonio Pierce. He was a linebacker coach. You know what I mean? It wasn't like he was the DC.
Right.
So I think you're right. Most teams, if they're going to fire their coach midseason, it's not a coordinator who they throw into that role.
Yeah.
So
I know. Look, it was a big mistake. Now, I talked to Evan earlier today, okay? And the more I've thought about this as far as the head coach going forward, okay, and let me just say, I want Rodgers back. I said this already. Bring him back. Who's the quarterback next year? He's how much money, dead cap money, if you let him go.
Right.
And I want to draft a young quarterback. And I'll take a shot again next year for one more time. Obviously, it's going to be a new regime. But I talked to Evan about this, and here's the guy. Evan, you said it. As the more I think about it, okay, I want to see Rex. I've said I want Rex.
Yep.
But the more I think about it, the guy who I want coaching his team, and you and I talked about it today, is Brian Flores.
I'm telling you, that's the guy.
I want him.
Yep.
He did a great job in Miami. He got hosed for this clown McDaniel. I mean, come on.
Right.
I mean, he's the weirdest guy I've ever seen coaching an NFL team.
But he's got a good offensive brain. But I hear you.
Okay. He does. Fine. All right. But they let this guy go. They hose him. He's suing the league. This guy, to me, is a mini Mike Tomlin. Okay?
Well, I think
he's no nonsense.
And he went and worked there. He went and worked under Mike Tomlin.
Worked with Mike for a year,
Oh, did he?
Right after all that craziness happened, he went and worked for Mike Tomlin.
That's the guy I want.
And then he went to Minnesota.
Right.
And the reason why I think he'd be great is because the strength of this team is still the defense.
Right.
They're not playing well right now, but it's still the strength of the team. I can only imagine how more, I don't want to say intelligent because it's the wrong word. Let's call it football IQ. How much greater the football IQ of guys like Sauce, even DJ, like some of these young players will be with him as your defensive coordinator, right? The things that they do in Minnesota is so complex, but they execute it like perfectly most of the time. And so much of that is on teaching. I think he's a good teacher. Now, he might have been an ass.
Well, this team needs an ass.
I'm talking about the Tua Tagovailoa.
Right.
But
we need an ass coaching.
You need that guy.
We do.
Right?
He's actually now the key is, and I love Brian Flores, especially a New York guy too. He's a New Yorker. He gets it.
Yeah.
He's going to understand us. He's got a bone to pick with the Giants and the Dolphins, which I also like.
Well, he's got a chip on his shoulder for the whole league.
Yeah.
I mean, this guy's got something to prove coming back to be a head coach. Let's be honest.
He just has to find the right offensive mind with him because whether it's developing Jordan Travis or someone that they draft, or even if it's Rodgers, it's only a year. Let's be honest.
Right.
They need that guy who's not going to screw up a young quarterback like we've unfortunately had for years. But I think Brian Flores he's the perfect guy.
Yeah, I'm with you 100%.
I think he'd want the job, too. I think he'd want this opportunity.
The more I thought about it, I think he's the perfect guy. Now, the one thing, who's the GM?
Wow.
Because, you can't bring Douglas back. And, look, we've seen mistakes before when you bring in a head coach and you don't have the general manager yet.
Right.
So that's a big problem. I don't know, where do we go for the GM? I don't think Douglas is coming back. I mean, I don't see how he can.
Yeah, a couple things from this game. We're talking to Joe B in his weekly spot, Jets lose to the Colts. Were you in favor of going for 2 when they went up 7? That's kind of like a new age analytic thought, but Rodgers was signaling it.
Yeah.
Obviously, the Jets decided to kick the extra point. It turned out to not make a big difference because then the Colts went for 2 and they failed. But in the moment, did you like the idea of going for 2 to try to make it a 2-score game?
I didn't have a great problem with not going for 2. My big problem was not going for it on 4th and 2 in the fourth quarter. That was the big problem. I didn't have a problem going for 2. They still were going to be up 8. They still needed a 2-point conversion. But, after they walked down the field like they did to score, I think it was like 5 plays they were in the end zone.
Yeah.
It didn't take them long. that's when I said, man, we cannot allow this team to where a champ, they can win the game. It wouldn't have mattered either way. They would have needed a field goal. We didn't get the first down, but at least you got to go for it there. You're 3-7.
So here's the key question. They went for it earlier in the game on that 4th and short.
Get it, that stupid play with Conklin.
Right.
By the way, it was very funny. By the way, give McCourty credit for taking a shot at the play with Conklin, as it said. They're not going to give. I think it was the situation with the Colts where they're not going to give it to Conklin, their tight end.
Right. Yeah, he took it.
That was funny.
And Tiki pointed that out when he did that.
Right. How often has he done that in his life?
Oh, never.
Right. Never.
Right.
What play call, if they go for it on 4th and 2 from the 17, would you have wanted?
What play call would I want?
Because that's the second thing we would have.
Here's what I want.
Yeah.
I would take a shot with the bootleg by Rodgers. Get him out of the pocket. Immediately get him out of the pocket, and get somebody in the end zone. Get it out to somebody. I mean, that play he had for the touchdown with Yeboah was beautiful, right?
Yeah,
that was a nice play. I mean, have something like that. I wouldn't have run it up the middle. I don't think they would have got it. They never get it when they run for it on 4th.
Nah, they've been brutal with that.
They would have had to throw it, but still, even with whatever the play call was, they had to go for it there. I mean, they had to. As far as I was concerned.
Where do you think this season's going? Do you think they're going to win a few games? Do you think they're going to crawl up and lose more? How does this play out?
Well, I mean, I don't think they're going to be. I mean, there's so many bad teams in the league. I mean, you look at the teams that are below them. I mean, God. They're going to win a couple more. They'll find a way to win a few more games. I'll be surprised if they don't. I think they'll win like 6. I think they'll go 3-3 the last 6 games, and it'll be just bad enough or just good enough to get them like the 10th or 11th pick in the draft. Something. No, but I mean, look, that doesn't mean you can't find the quarterback there. I mean, I don't know.
Right.
But, it is what it is.
Well, one idea I mentioned this to Tiki last week, and obviously it's got to be the right quarterback, is I would use Sauce Gardner as a chip to try to trade up. Like I would, especially if it's Jacksonville picking number 1 and they want to keep Trevor Lawrence and they're just going for it and they're retooling. Sauce and my first to trade up to own this draft and maybe get the quarterback of the future, because I think that's an enticing piece that no other team could really offer. A cornerback who's not making big money yet, who's a borderline
I think
star.
It depends who the coach is. I mean, if you bring a guy, let's say you bring Flores in or you bring Rex in, okay? Those guys might say, wait a minute. I can fix this guy and get him back to being the player that, he was his rookie year, or certainly the player he can be. See, I think if you get – I'm not against what you're saying.
Right.
But I think if you get the right guy in there, like I said, a guy like Rex, a guy like Flores, who are defensive guys, they may say, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to fix this guy. So – I'm not against it, but I think if you get the right coach in there, he might have that feeling like, hey, I'm not going to – maybe I can really turn this guy into the cornerback we'd like to see him be.
Yeah. Well, we know what he's capable of doing. He's just had a terrible year. That's the problem. Even yesterday, it wasn't the tackling. It was leaving guys wide open. That was the issue.
Well, he got beat. Remember, on the first touchdown by the Colts, he got beat on the play that went down to the 1-yard line, and then he missed the tackle. The guy beat him, and then he missed the tackle at about the 10-yard line, and the guy went to the 1-yard line. They scored on the next play on a run.
Unbelievable. Well, the good news is we can't lose next weekend, so that's a positive.
And please, can they stop? Why are they favored in these games? I mean, you make a fortune. I mean, you would if you bet against the Jets every week, you could retire now.
You're right.
The other thing is too, and this is a memo to everybody out there that bets. Okay, anytime you get the Pittsburgh Steelers getting points anywhere, but getting points at home, you have to take them.
Yeah.
Okay?
Yeah.
I mean, to me, that was the lock of the week. Even though he didn't score a touchdown yesterday, 6 field goals, Mike Tomlin's the best coach in the league. I'm sorry. All due respect to Andy Reid and Sean McVay and Shanahan, and Jim Harbaugh, and even John Harbaugh and Jim Harbaugh. The best coach in the league is Mike Tomlin.
Yeah, week to week. He hasn't had the quarterback to win a championship.
Well, now, you know what? But now he's got Russell Wilson. He's got Russell Wilson playing like it was 2014, T.
I know. He's playing inside himself. He's not letting him be rogue and try to be a –
Right.
You don't need to win the MVP, Russell Wilson. You just need to win games.
Right.
Period.
Right.
All this talk about Buffalo getting the number 1 seed now because they beat Kansas City. The Steelers have a legitimate shot at it. And they're playing the Chiefs on Christmas in Pittsburgh, Week 17.
And isn't that like a prime game or
That's
something?
That's a Netflix game.
Oh man. That's what it is, Netflix?
Yeah, after the Mike Tyson thing.
Did you watch the Mike Tyson thing there, Joe?
Look, I am a big boxing guy, okay? All right, I was Muhammad Ali. When I was growing up, Teak, Muhammad's one of my guys. Loved Muhammad.
Oh,
okay?
you're lucky, man.
The night he lost to Joe Frazier in March 8th of 1971, the greatest fight that in the history of mankind, as far as I'm concerned, better than the Thriller in Manila because they were younger, and it was even though we lost, even though Muhammad lost, best fight I ever saw. I watched it in Paramus at one of the big theaters here when I was 16, 17 years old, and I was like the only guy in the place rooting for Ali. There wasn't a lot. I'll tell you that. All right. But so I was fortunate enough to see Muhammad. I was, the era of Ray Leonard, a big Ray Leonard guy, and Marvin Hagler and Thomas Hearns and Roberto Duran, right on through Tyson, right up until the night Tyson got beat by Buster Douglas.
Right, in Japan.
Right, in 1991 when he lost that fight. And there was still some decent fights after that. Riddick Bowe and Holyfield. Holyfield had that fight with George Foreman. It was still, Lennox Lewis. There was some fights with him weren't bad. But that was kind of the end. When Douglas took out Mike, that kind of was the end of me with boxing. So, but I was a big boxing guy, but there was no way. A 58-year-old Mike Tyson against this guy that's 27 years old?
Yeah.
What do you think you get?
But, Joe, he could have beat his ass, man. He really could have. You're talking about what's his name? James? What was the guy's name?
Jake Paul.
Jake Paul.
Like he didn't counter at all. There were so many times.
He didn't want to hurt him.
Exactly right. He didn't want to hurt him. He wanted to cash in on the $20 million, take care of his family, and call it a day.
Well, it's a good thing you missed it. It was boring as all hell.
By the way, we started watching it, Joe, and about, around 2 rounds in, the little wheel of death started. And so we were like, all right, it'll come back. We fell asleep.
What do you mean
he doesn't know what the wheel of death is. You got to explain it to him.
Basically, when your internet goes out and it just starts spinning,
I see.
And everything freezes.
Right.
So we kind of like, it'll come back in a second. We fell asleep. We woke up the next one. It was still spinning.
That's unbelievable.
Are you serious?
It was bad.
Imagine watching Chiefs against the Steelers, and that's happening as the game starts.
I wouldn't be happy
Apparently,
about that.
you had to reset. Like you had to log out and then reset it to get it to come back. So Netflix kind of failed that.
Yeah, it was not a good night for Netflix.
Yeah, it wasn't exactly the thrill in Manila. I can tell you that.
It certainly wasn't. Thank you, Joe. Good talking to you, man.
All right, guys. All the love. Be well. Talk in a couple weeks.
You got it. The great Joe Benigno after a Jet loss, and we are now unified. I spoke to him earlier this morning about it. I sold him on my guy, the guy I have fully endorsed to be the next head coach of the New York Jets. He's the only choice, in my opinion, and that is Brian Flores. I should make up a middle name for Brian Flores now that I'm in love with him.